At first glance, Taiwan looks small, a densely populated island off China's southeastern coast, smaller than many provinces, with no seat at the United Nations and limited formal diplomatic recognition. Yet this single territory sits at the center of one of the most consequential geopolitical struggles of the 21st century. To understand why, we have to rewind, but only briefly. In 1949, after a brutal civil war, China split into two political realities. The Communist Party established the People's Republic of China on the mainland. The defeated nationalist government retreated to Taiwan, continuing to call itself the Republic of China. Both sides claimed legitimacy, both claimed to be the real China, and neither ever formally ended the conflict. Over time, most of the world recognized Beijing. Taiwan became politically isolated but economically integrated. Generations passed. Taiwan democratized. Its people stopped seeing themselves as temporary exiles. The island evolved into something Beijing never planned for, a Chinese-speaking democracy that worked. And that is where history stops being enough to explain China's obsession. Because if this were only about unfinished Civil War business, the urgency wouldn't be rising now. What has changed is China itself. China today is not the China of the 1990s. It is a global manufacturing hub, technological competitor, and a military power with ambitions far beyond its borders. For the Chinese Communist Party, legitimacy no longer comes from revolution. It comes from performance, economic growth, national pride, and the promise of rejuvenation after what it calls a century of humiliation. Taiwan sits uncomfortably in the middle of that narrative. Every time China speaks about national unity, Taiwan stands as visible proof that unity is incomplete, not just territorially, but ideologically. A Chinese society that votes, protests, criticizes leaders, and thrives economically without Communist Party control undermines a core claim Beijing depends on, that authoritarian governance is necessary for stability and prosperity. This is rarely stated outright, but it is deeply understood. Taiwan isn't just an island China wants to reclaim. It is an alternative future China wants to prevent. Then there's geography. Taiwan lies at the heart of what strategists call the first island chain, a natural barrier running from Japan through Taiwan and down to the Philippines. This chain effectively limits China's navy from projecting power freely into the Pacific Ocean. As long as Taiwan remains outside Beijing's control, China's access to the open ocean is constrained. Its submarines are more easily tracked. Its naval expansion is strategically boxed in. Its ability to challenge U.S. dominance in the Pacific remains limited. If Taiwan were under Chinese control, that barrier would crack. Suddenly, China would gain a forward position deep into the Western Pacific. Sea lanes would be more secure. Power projection would be easier. Military pressure on Japan and Southeast Asia would intensify. The balance of naval power would shift, quietly but permanently. This is not about pride, this is about leverage. Economics makes the picture even sharper. Taiwan produces more than 60% of the world's advanced semiconductors. At the high end, the number is even higher. These chips power smartphones, cars, satellites, artificial intelligence systems, and modern weapons. China depends on them. Despite massive investment, Beijing has not been able to fully replicate Taiwan's most advanced chip manufacturing capabilities. Control over Taiwan would mean influence, direct or indirect, over the world's most critical technological supply chain. Even without physical takeover, pressure on Taiwan creates uncertainty, and uncertainty alone can shift investment, alliances, and technological momentum. From Beijing's perspective, allowing a rival political system to control such strategic assets indefinitely is unacceptable. But China is not the only actor calculating risks. For the United States, Taiwan is not a formal ally, yet it is deeply embedded in American strategic thinking. Supporting Taiwan signals commitment to regional partners. It reinforces credibility. It demonstrates that borders cannot be changed by force without consequences. At the same time, Washington maintains strategic ambiguity. never explicitly promising military intervention, but never ruling it out. This ambiguity is intentional. It keeps Beijing guessing, it restrains Taipei from declaring independence, and it preserves flexibility in a crisis. Japan watches closely. Taiwan's security is tied to Japan's own. A hostile power controlling Taiwan would bring military pressure dangerously close to Japanese territory. Europe, often quieter in rhetoric, understands the economic stakes. A conflict over Taiwan would disrupt global trade on a scale unseen in modern history. Taiwan itself. It exists in a narrow space between assertion and restraint. Its people overwhelmingly prefer the status quo. Not unification under Beijing's terms, not a formal declaration of independence that could provoke war, but continued de facto autonomy. That balance becomes harder to maintain as pressure increases. Military drills grow larger, airspace incursions become routine, rhetoric sharpens. Each side insists it is responding, not provoking. Each move raises the risk of miscalculation. This is where the story becomes most unsettling. China does not need to invade Taiwan tomorrow to change the outcome. It can wait, pressure, isolate and normalize tension. It can test responses. It can shape global expectations so that crisis feels inevitable rather than shocking. Time, in many ways, favors Beijing, unless something breaks the pattern. But time also introduces uncertainty. Economic slowdown challenges domestic legitimacy. Nationalism becomes more important. Leaders begin to frame reunification not as an option, but as a responsibility. And once a narrative hardens, backing away becomes politically dangerous. This is why Taiwan matters more now than ever. Not because war is guaranteed, but because the incentives, fears, and ambitions surrounding it are aligning in ways that history tells us are risky. The question is no longer whether China wants Taiwan. The real question is how much risk China is willing to accept to get it, and how much the rest of the world is willing to absorb to stop it. Because in the end, Taiwan is not just about China or Taiwan. It is about what kind of global order survives the next test. Whether power redraws borders or restraint redraws expectations. And whether the most consequential conflict of our time arrives suddenly or unfolds quietly, decision by decision, while the world is still debating the question it should have asked much earlier. Why? And what happens if the answer arrives too late?